Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming. Going within Heart Sutra, the soul of Buddhism. After enlightenment, first of all, I'll speak on something. Certain disciples, they claim, each claims his master to be the greatest. It is said about a certain master that the moment disciple comes in front of the master, the disciple doesn't have to ask the question, and the master starts explaining or speaking on the same question that disciple has. This is nothing unique to a particular master, be it Raman, be it Buddha, be it Lao Tse, be it Zarathustra, be it Osho, be it Lalaji, but some of the disciples of Lalaji claim that as soon as he comes in front of Lalaji, any disciple, he will start discussing, explaining the same thing. All these masters are awakened. What does awakening means? When a person is awakened, when a person is asleep, he is asleep. When he awakes, so all those who are asleep, who are awakened, who wake up from the sleep, they have the same quality. Awakening means the consciousness is cosmic now. It no more individualized. You are part of the cosmos. The drop is individuality. The drop has awakening means drop has merged in the ocean. Fana first, one shore of awakening. The other shore of awakening is Baka, subsistence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the ocean becomes drop. So ocean and drop are one. There is no difference between the two as far as the quality is concerned. You take the water from the ocean and test it, the quality basically remains the same, except the pollution and so. Awakening means you are one with existence. The moment one is existence, one with existence, his innerness is the inner sky, screen. And he becomes, his consciousness becomes like that of MRI or X-ray or whatever you may call it. The moment a disciple comes in, as if he has come in front of a screen, he comes with when there is a question, your energy is of a certain quality. You come. It's not that the master wants to know, it's that the existence brings out from the master only that which is needed at the moment for the sake of the disciple. It has nothing to do, it's not any special quality, and those who give it importance and consider it as a special quality, it is not. If you are awakened, if you have turned on the light, that means the room will be illumined. Awakening means the light has, inner light is lit. Because of this, there is illumination. It is the quality of the illumination, the quality of awakening, one of the essential quality of awakening, that the master's innerness becomes so crystal clear, like an X-ray vision. Anything that comes in front of it, it is immediately reflected. There had been an incident. Whenever anyone comes with a dirty thought or ill thought in front of Maulana Fazl Ahmad Khan Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu, he will simply say, this was the sound he used to create. Means someone has come in the congregation who is not of pure thought, or at the moment he has a ill thought. And it happened once a person came, he was a Muslim, he was in love with a woman. So he was coming in the company of Maulana Fazl Ahmad Khan Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu with an intention, if there will be the grace of the Maulana, he will get married to the woman. Nobody knew. Master has to respect your privacy. You may have an ill thought about somebody, that I want to have this thing with this woman or that woman. Master has to respect your privacy. So he does not wait for you to answer the question. Immediately it is reflected on his innerness, and he starts responding as if it does not belong to anyone. So this does not make the person feel embarrassed. You are a very respectable person. A thought of stealing comes in your mind, and if the master says, look, X has come with a thought of stealing, his respect among the congregation will be affected. So master starts speaking in a generalized way instead of letting it be the question related to a specific person. So the master did not, Maulana Fazl Ahmad Khan did not say anything. He simply looked at that person. That day, Maulana, it was a full moonlight. He had the something that ladies use as a makeup in their eyelashes. The Indians, they call it surma. Is a kind of it is a different thing. It is medicinal. It also helps in the treatment of eyes. He had that in his eyes. He had the white clothes, and white was shimmering in the full moonlight. He looked at the gentleman and he said, is she more beautiful than me? That's all he said. So the master knows, and in order to maintain the privacy, he starts speaking. This is not any special quality about a master. Every master, it is like the moment you attain PhD, a prefix comes before your name, Dr. So and so. Awakening or being enlightened brings that quality in you that you can discern things without being there. To say that my master does that is narrowness. It is quality of all the seekers, all the masters. Now when Buddha became enlightened, we are in the Easter weekend. During the Easter weekend, there used to be for the past 95 years a spiritual gathering at the shrine of Lalaji in Fatehgarh. So this is that period. Today is the second day. And Monday is the day when Naqshbandi Sheikh Sufi Shakuntala Devi took Samadhi or had her Visal. So I will take a few anecdotes from these lives. So about Lalaji, the moment an individual or a seeker comes in front of a master, his innerness is revealed. He doesn't need to say anything to the master. The master knows and starts speaking on that. After enlightenment, Buddha gave the first sermon, turning the wheel of religion, Dham Chakra Pravartan Sutra. The sutra of turning the wheel of time. As such, as an individual, you are stuck. The wheel of time is not moving. And it is only in movement that it will gain momentum. So first and the foremost thing is this: the wheel comes in motion. And he gave 3 shelters. The first is Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. I go to the shelter of the awakened one. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. The second is Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, to go to the congregation of such people. Sangha means communion, commune of the master. And then Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, in the refuge of Dham, the principle, the hukum, the cosmic law. Nanak uses the word hukum. He sings Hukum Rajai Charana Nanak Likhiya Nal. First, he gives a little description. Ek Omkar Sat Nam, he is one. Omkar is his name. Just as when Moses asked God how you would like to be known as, he says, I am that. I am. Satnam, it is true. The doer, the only doer, fearless, Akal Murat, beyond time and space. And then when he asks when there will be a dawn of awakening, Kiv Sachiara Hoye, Kiv Kude Tuttepal, when the veil of ignorance or the ego will vanish. To that he gives an answer. Hukum Rajai Chalna Nanak Likhiya Nal. one who flows with existence, one who is one with existence, is the only answer. Nothing else is needed. But today, we are not in harmony with existence. And the reason is earth is vibrating at a higher speed. Many the plants, the trees are being cut. So many things are happening. So this was the first sermon which Buddha gave almost 20 years before he gave to Sariputra the sermon of the Heart Sutra. The sermon of the Buddha, which is known as the sermon of turning the wheel of religion, Dham Chakra Pravartan Sutra. That was his first sermon near Varanasi. Created the so-called ordinary religion. Ordinary religion, you go to the Buddha shelter, just as anybody else comes to the first, that is the general congregation. Everyone comes, bows down to the master, sits down, listens to the discourses and all those things. Thus he created the so-called ordinary religion for the ordinary masses. In this sermon he declares, come and take the refuge in Buddha, take the refuge in the law taught by Buddha, and take refuge in the community or commune of Buddha. 20 years after, he found someone to whom he can give his soul, his essence, and that is the Heart Sutra. So Sariputra was the one to whom he opened up his heart, his soul, and after that he declares his second dispensation. It took 20 years to bring a few people to the highest possibility. Buddha took 20 years of preparation to create a Sariputra, to create a Mudgalyam, to create a Mahakashyap, to create an Anand. This is known as the second most important sermon. The first was given in Sarnath near Varanasi, when he told people, come and take refuge in me, I have attained. Come and take refuge in me, I have reached. Come and partake of me, I have arrived. Come and follow me. That was for the ordinary mind. It is natural. Buddha could not have declared the Heart Sutra because there are certain intricate things which are shared with the master, shares with the disciple, only who have been in a certain, has been there for a certain period of time. Or sometimes the master calls you individually and then gives that message. The earlier message for the ordinary masses, it is natural. Buddha could not have declared the Heart Sutra, the masses would not have been able to understand. Then he worked for 20 years with his disciples. Only Sariputra is coming very close to being the Bodhisattva. He is coming to that state of Khalifahood. Many disciple comes in front of the in the company of a master, but very few people go in the inner circle. And out of those who are inner circle, they are being prepared for the continuation of the work. One among these is chosen as the Khalifa, Khas, the chief disciple of the Sheikh. Tariqat remains his responsibility. All the others, they are one step below. Therefore, O Sariputra, now I can say to you that having relied on the perfection of wisdom, only one thing does one to rely, that is awareness, that is attentiveness. Only one thing does one have to rely upon, that is his own inner source being. Everything else has to be dropped. Now, there are people who can do the work of a master, who is one with the master. The moment you are one with existence, the moment you have been granted PhD, that means you have developed that quality of analysis, of understanding. You may have a PhD in a particular discipline, of a particular branch of a discipline, but with that capacity, you can look into the other things and understand it. A mechanic who has known the art of motor vehicle mechanism, each vehicle have a slight difference, but basic things, the carburetor, the accelerator, the brakes remains the same. Their position may be different, their adjustment may be slightly different, but one who is well versed, expert car mechanic, he can do that. So the moment you may be enlightened in Sufi path, you may not be aware of Buddha's path, but you and Buddha both are merged into the existence in the ocean of the being. Terminologies may be different, the words may be different, but the essence of Buddha and that of Lao Tse is same. Lao Tse is speaking to a different set of people. Buddha is speaking to a different set of people. So their outer expression may differ, but inner teaching remains the same. So when you are talking about a particular master, you can take the pages from the works of Sheikh Nazim, Lalaji or Buddha and post it, and you are satisfied that you are doing the work of the master. That is not the thing. Do you understand when Lalaji said, Betassubi sadakat ki jaan hai? Betassubi, tassub means narrow-minded, who are narrowness in their consciousness. This is, I belong to Islamic tradition, I belong to Christianity, or so on and so forth. The master is the one who is one with the existence. He may be following a particular path because he comes from an Islamic tradition or a Hindu tradition, but he makes the things, he does not impose his way onto the disciple. He makes the way for each and every disciple according to their own liking. Let's take, for instance, a master decided to get the clothes for all the disciples of the congregation. He takes them to a clothes store. He allows everyone to choose according to their own size or anything. You may be tall, you may need a different size of the trousers as compared to the others. So based on your innerness, the Master provides you what resonates with you. Accordingly, He provides you the path. That is the way the Master operates. So, Buddha tells Sariputra that you have to rely on your own inner source, not on the outer source. Inner source is being. Everything else has to be dropped, all refuges. Sufis say there are three things which you have to abandon. Tarke tark, when you come in the company of the Master, you are logic, full of logic. You have questions. This, why this happened so, why that happened so, if this is so, that is so. Master does not get angry. Instead, he responds in his own way, because he wants him to take him to that state when logic becomes futile. Each disciple will understand the Master is so intelligent that you cannot argue him as far as the logic is concerned at that level, at that plane. Tarke tark. Why have you come to this congregation? Because there is a desire, all the worldly desires have been dropped. You have a desire for ukba, the other life, the life beyond. So tarke tark, tarke ukba. The last obstruction in the process of awakening is the Master. This is my Master, that is this and that, and so you have to abandon the Master. Then you and your being are all alone. This is what Buddha is emphasizing. Having relied on nothing but the perfection of meditation, Marakba, what one has to do is not to rely on anything worldly or otherwise, not even on the Master, to let it go, to give the resulting emptiness a free run, this emptiness that you have attained within through the medium of Marakba. Let it work unobstructed. Stop relying on anything, to seek nowhere any refuge or support. This is the real renunciation. You are not dependent on anyone. I come for the live streaming. There are many screens open. One screen is open to connect to Facebook streaming. The other screen, sometimes it becomes reluctant, is connected to YouTube streaming. The third MacBook screen is open for Skype, and the talk begins. The real renunciation is when you are not dependent on anything. Our separate self is the only reality which can maintain itself only by finding support. It does not rely on anything. To go to the refuge of the three treasures, refuge in Buddha, refuge in Sangh, refuge is Dham, is the beginning. It is the most ordinary religion. The Master says, you should come to the meditation. You should participate in all the activities. In a spiritual congregation, there are different responsibilities. My father has never attended any of the sessions. In the morning when he gets up after getting ready, his job is first thing to supervise the preparation of the prasad, which is to be given around 9 o'clock. After the first meditation sessions, is over. He has to prepare that. After that, he has to prepare to look after preparation of the lunch for 3, whatever number of people, sometimes they are in hundreds. And after the lunch is over, then he has to prepare in dinner. He has never attended any session. And you think he was not getting the benefit. So in the company of the Master, the beginning is you have to work, you have to come every day to the office, you have been given a room or a table or something, from there you have to operate. After some time, in a modern day work ethics, sometimes the senior officers work from home. But that thing cannot be given to an ordinary person who is asked to stay at home. He may not spend time in the work, may time elsewhere. But the senior one who takes his responsibility, he stays at home and does the work from there. To go to the refuge of the three treasures is the central act of Buddhist religion. Refuge in Buddha, refuge in Sangh, refuge in Dham. This is for ordinary person. But here in Heart Sutra, Buddha is saying something which is contradictory. It is not only contradictory, he simply says that which you can understand, the more you begin to grow, you will be able to understand the assertions of the Master are response. The Master is not talking to the walls or novice. He is talking to you. And a Master can give only that much which you can receive. The higher is your consciousness, the deeper your consciousness grows, the more different things can be stated, indicated by the Master. So these statements may appear to be contradictory. If one goes for a logical consistency, it will not be there. You cannot find any logical consistency in Buddha's statements. That is why the day Buddha died, Buddhism was divided into 36 schools. The exact day he died, the disciples were divided into 36 schools, different schools. What had happened? Because he had been making so many statements to so many different people, because of their different consciousness and understanding. It is the consciousness, the level of consciousness that brings the understanding. They all started quarreling and fighting, and they said, this has been said by Buddha. Just think, the first 5 disciples to whom he said, I have attained, now come to me, I will take you there. If those 5 disciples happened to meet Sariputra, and Sariputra said, it has attained through non-attainmentness. One who declares that he has attained is wrong. But Buddha told those 5 disciples that I have attained. And here Sariputra says, one who declares that he has attained is wrong, because nothing can be attained. The flower, the seed is the flower. To say that seed has become a flower, or seed has attained to flowerhood, or seed has attained to fruithood, is wrong. But it can be only understood at a certain level of consciousness, not by ordinary. To an ordinary student, you have to give those stories about the childbirth, that the angel drops a child, a baby by the mother's side, and this is how children are born. So if those 5 disciples whom after enlightenment Buddha came and said to them, because before enlightenment, when Buddha parted and went his separate way, he promised them, if ever I happen to get the light, I'll come to you and tell. So he told them that I have attained. Now, if they happen to meet Sariputra, Sariputra is at a different level of consciousness. That is why the intricate things are being shared with him by Buddha, which cannot be done with anybody else. It is attained through a kind of non-attainmentness. One who declares that he has attained is wrong, because it cannot be attained. What would those 5 disciples would have said? They would have said, what are you talking about? We are the first disciples of Buddha, the oldest, the senior-most, and that was the first statement that Buddha has made to us. I have attained. In fact, we would have never followed him if he has not declared that I have attained. We also wanted to attain. That is why we followed him, and he said to us, I am your refuge. Come and take refuge in me. Let me be your shelter. And what nonsense are you talking about, Sariputra? Buddha could have not said this. You have not understood the message of Buddha. You have misunderstood. Something has gone wrong, or Sariputra, you are fabricating it. Now this statement in Heart Sutra was made in the privacy, was addressed to Sariputra, the man who is very close to being a Buddhahood. This statement of the Heart Sutra, that nothing can be attained, to say that I have attained is wrong. Because to say that means there has to be someone to say this. This is duality. Awakening means duality is no more there. The drop cannot say that I have merged in the ocean now. That is what the essence of fana is. The moment drop merges in the ocean, drop does not exist anymore. Can you find a drop in the ocean after it attains to fana? It has dissolved, it has become one with the ocean. Yet still there may be a little turbulence in it. The moment ocean lends its quality to it, baka is attained, and you have attained the two shores of enlightenment, fana and baka. The river of enlightenment flows between these two rivers, between these two banks, just like a river is a flow of water between two banks. Enlightenment is the flow of consciousness between two banks of fana and baka. Drop becoming ocean, drop merging in the ocean, and ocean merging into the drop. So Sariputra is a man of that understanding. Sariputra cannot produce any proof, because in those days there was no tape recorder, there was no iPhones or any of those kind of devices that he could reproduce the message of Buddha. He can simply say, he can take an oath, I am not saying anything untrue. Buddha has said to me, rely on your meditation and nothing else. Whatsoever an awakened one speaks, it is the churning out of the meditativeness. The mind relies on something, is suppressed self or ego. Ego cannot exist without props. It wants props, support. Something has to support it. Once all props have been dropped, removed, ego falls flat on the ground and disappears. But only when ego drops to the ground, that consciousness rises in you, which is eternal. Only when the ego drops flat on the ground and then disappears, out of that disappearance, out of the ashes of ego, consciousness rises in you, which is timeless, deathless. And here Buddha says there is no refuge, Sariputra. There is no remedy, Sariputra. There is nowhere to go. You are already there. Where would you go after death? Because there is nothing else. There is no heaven, there is no hell. If you reach into this full emptiness, unprepared, there will be great trembling, without understanding. If you are thrown into it by someone, for example, sometimes people come out of deep love and respect, and say, why don't you push me a little harder? If you are not ready, how can you be pushed into? Sufis aptly say that the moment disciple is ready, master appears. Sometimes people say the ordinary person, a doctor, will keep on insisting on the patient, quarreling with the patient, you have to take this medicine, you have to take this medicine, only then you can get better. But an awakened one, he simply explains, all choices are yours, he does not force you to take. He simply says, if you take this, it will be better. But the choice is ultimately yours. He does not push you in any way. If you are not ready for it, you cannot be pushed into it. Anything forced will not help you to grow. That will be forced ripe. You take the fruits which are forced ripe, their taste will be different than the fruits that are naturally ripe. The quality, the color, the texture. In order to ripe the fruits faster, we use carbide. They tend to rot faster as compared to those that ripe naturally under the sun and the moon. If you are not ready for it, you cannot be pushed into it. It is not going to help. It may hinder your progress for many lives to come then. Once you have gone into that nothingness unprepared, you will be so shocked, so frightened, so scared of death that never again, at least for few lives, will you come to any person who talks about nothingness, who talks about God. You will avoid that. Fear will continue to remain in you like a seed. That's why a master never imposes anything on you. He makes it available and leaves it on you. I am dealing with a person at the moment who says all the problems in her life are because of meditation. Everyone is trying to tell meditation cannot create any problems. But she is convinced because things were forced into her. And the seed is there, and that will hinder her for many, many lives. There is nothing you can talk to about. You cannot be pushed unprepared. You can be pushed only slowly and slowly in some proportion as you are prepared. You are prepared to take one step. The master takes you one step, and so on and so forth. Have you heard the famous statement of Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, the founder of modern existentialism? He says man is trembling, constant trembling. Why? Because death is there. Why? Fear is there. One day I may not be. He is right about this. Is about the ordinary mind, and he is right. Everybody is trembling. The problem is always to be or not to be. It is always hanging around your neck, death. You cannot conceive of disappearing into nothingness. It hurts. It frightens you. And if you look deep inside yourself, you will find there is trembling always with the idea of being nothing. You want to be. You want to remain. You want to persist. You want to exist forever. That is why people who do not know anything about their inner being go on believing that soul is immortal. Not because they know. It is because of the fear. Because of that trembling. They have to believe that soul is immortal. It is a kind of a wish fulfillment. So anybody who is talking about immortality of soul may appeal to you. You will get hooked on. Not that you have understood what he is saying. He may not have understood himself. But it will be very appealing to you. In India, people believe in the immortality of soul. And these are cowardly people. You cannot find more cowardly people anywhere else. And because of that, they have remained slaves. Slave to very small country. Anyone who came to India was able to conquer. There was no difficulty because they believed in the immortality of soul. A country that believes in the immortality of soul cannot conquer at all because nobody will be afraid to die. How can you conquer a person who is not afraid to die? They would all have died. They would all have yielded to a kind of submission. They could not have yielded to any conqueror. But for thousands years, India remained slave. Very easily it got slave. There was another existentialist philosopher, Jean-Paul Sartre, who says man is condemned to be free. Why condemned? Why this ugly word condemned used? Freedom, is it a kind of condemnation? Yes, for the ordinary mind it is. Freedom means danger. Freedom means you cannot rely on anything. You have to rely on yourself. Freedom means all props have been taken away. All support has disappeared. Freedom basically means nothingness. You are free only when you are nothing. He says man is freedom. Man as freedom becomes anguish. Anguish out of freedom. If you are not ready for it, if you are not prepared to go into it, it becomes anguish. Man as freedom becomes anguish if you are not ready to go into it. Nobody understands what it means to be free. Nobody wants to be free. People want to remain slave, because in slavery the responsibility is not on you. Freedom means all responsibility is yours. No one is responsible for anything but you. And you do not want ever to be responsible. You are just a slave. What can you do? You did all that was ordered to do. When you are free, there is fear. Responsibility arises. Each act, and you feel responsible for it. If you do this, this may happen. If you do the other thing, then something else can happen. The choice is yours, and this choice creates trembling in an individual. And for an awakened one, freedom means constant unveiling of the being. It is yours. Your uniqueness consists in the fact that each one of us does things in his own way. But Sartre considers freedom creates anguish. Freedom is a kind of condemnation. And Kierkegaard says freedom is trembling. And Buddha wants you to go into freedom, into nothingness naturally. You have to be prepared for it. It is neither trembling nor condemnation. Sariputra is ready now to go into it. And one who has attained to the consciousness of Sariputra, the master can allow him to go into it. He paves the way for that seeker to go into the state of nothingness. Therefore, O Sariputra, it is because of his non-attainmentness that a bodhisattva, through having relied on the perfection of wisdom, dwells without any thought covering. In the absence of thought coverings, he has not been made to tremble, because there is nothing to cover him. There is nothing to prepare. He has overcome what can upset, and in the end he attains to nirvana. It is said, Lao Tse was staying on a mountain in a cave on a cold winter night. The Chinese philosopher, at the moment the name has slipped, he wanted to meet Lao Tse, and he came to know that Lao Tse is staying on the mountain on a cold winter night in a cave, and that too all alone. And in the cave, on the mountain that time, no light. So only when the sunlight rays reaches, there will be light. So he went along with his disciples to meet Lao Tse. On reaching close to the mountain, he told his disciples, let he want to go all alone. He don't want anybody to accompany him. When he reached the cave, Lao Tse was sitting all alone by himself on a cold winter night in a dark cave. The philosopher told Lao Tse that I have come to have a dialogue with him. Lao Tse responded, there is no one to talk to you. How could you accept a philosopher to accept this answer? You are in front of me and you are saying there is no one to talk to you. Then he said, I want to ask you, have a dialogue. He said, whatever you have to do, you do and go. And this philosopher started trembling. He ran out of the cave on a cold winter night, sweating. And he went and he told his disciples, that man is dangerous, keep away from him. Philosophers operate on a different wavelength. An awakened one who has attained to, who has no mind thought coverings, no thought to answer it. He has become what can upset, and in the end he attains to nirvana. He has overcome what can upset, and he has no trembling in his nothingness. Lao Tse is sitting all alone, there is no one, and there is no trembling in him. It looks almost impossible to the ordinary mind. That's why the philosopher was afraid. How can this man, you are so fidgety. Just try one day. Forget about your Facebook, your iPhone, iPad, computer and everything. Lock yourself into the room and sit down. If you can sit down for 5 minutes without any movement, not eyes closed, not sleeping. I am here on this live streaming. I am not talking to you like this, or movement of the eyes and this, and all kind of things when people talk about. There is no movement of the body because there is no restlessness, there is no trembling. Just why there is, I have to turn this way or that way to talk to you. That is because of restlessness within. When the mind is completely at rest, words flow, the body is still. He has overcome all that can upset. There is no trembling in this nothingness. And the only thing is this, turning the face to look into the different screens if everything is okay. But the ordinary mind cannot understand this. How can you remain without trembling when you are disappearing? When the drop is disappearing in the ocean. Have you heard the biography of the drop? Before it merges into the ocean, there is a great trembling. The moment the process of dropping begins, the trembling disappears. Because the moment that stream, experiment this. Take a flute maybe a dishwashing liquid, maybe a hand wash, from the big bottle emptied into small. The moment there becomes a first, nothing is coming out from the bigger bottle. Then you start pouring into it. A stream is formed. That stream connects the bigger bottle and the small, from where it is being emptied, to the smaller bottle to which you are pouring into. There is a stream. Have you looked at that too? Because through that stream the two are connected to one another. There is no trembling. The only thing is this: if you lose the balance. So drop is, you cannot see that invisible stream. The drop is merging, the river water drop by drop. Each drop, and one drop unfolds into the other and forms a stream. And this stream is going into the ocean, merging into, drop merging into the ocean. There is no trembling. It looks almost impossible that how can you remain without trembling? That stream that connects the bigger bottle to the smaller, the one from where you are pouring into the other, it connects the two. The river that is merging drop by drop into the ocean, it is merging like a stream. When you are melting into the unknown, how can you remain unscared? How can you manage not to escape? How can you manage not to start finding support so that you can again create the feeling of being the ego, the self? That is why Buddha waited for 20 years to have someone like Sariputra ready. And then too, he stated his truth to Sariputra as a personal dialogue, not a public sermon. Heart Sutra is not a public sermon like any other sermon of Buddha. And if people did not believe Sariputra, they are also right. Because Buddha had been saying something else to them. To some, the master says that you should come very often. To some in an office, a novice, the senior authorities say that you have to come to the office every day. Reach in time. At 9 o'clock, your timing start the work time starts 9 o'clock. And to others, nothing like this. My father, when he was working in the office, he had a special hour to reach the office because of his sincerity. Everyone, as soon as the clock struck 4, they leave whatever they have been doing. But this man continued to do the work until 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Then he was the one who will close the office, seal it, and then leave. So Sariputra is the one to whom Buddha is giving this message. The others are right because Buddha gave them, they were novice. So when your senior authorities tell a novice that you have to reach for 9 o'clock, is this message for a senior most person like the partner? No, it is not. Remember, this applies to each master. His statements are contradictory. My statements may appear to you to some as contradictory because they are made to different people. They are made, and each person is a consciousness. They are made, in fact, to different consciousness. The more you will be growing, the more I will appear contradictory. The more I have to refute what I have said before, because whatsoever I told you yesterday when you were a primary school student is no more relevant to you now. You have grown in consciousness. With your growing in consciousness, I have to respond to you in a different way each day. Each turn in your consciousness will be a turn in my statement. Each time when I will address you as you are growing in your consciousness, my statement, my way of narrating to you will be different. Because earlier you were in the form 1, I had to tell you something different. Now in a different way. As you continue to grow into your consciousness, I will have to respond to you in a different way. If you are an ordinary, the like kind of a person, click, click, like. This statement you said is beautiful. If you are at that level, you are to be kept outside the door. Chachaji used to say, I do not want the dog of the world to come to my place because my time is very precious. So with your growing into consciousness, I will have to respond to you in different way. Each turn, each movement into your level of consciousness, my statement will be different. And when I am gone, that is why after Buddha has left, there were 36 schools. Nothingness brings freedom. Freedom from the self is the ultimate freedom. There is no freedom higher than this. Nothingness is freedom, not anguish, as Jean-Paul Sartre says. Or what Søren Kierkegaard says, Danish philosopher, that there is trembling. It is not trembling because there is no one to tremble within. There is no one to tremble within. Meditation prepares you for that. Because as you enter into meditation, you find less and less yourself every day. The less you find yourself in the same proportion, you grow into blessings. Your blessing grows, your benediction grows, your blissfulness grows. Slowly and slowly you learn the inner mathematics. You learn the mathematics of the inner. The more you are, the more you are hell. The less you are, the more in heaven. The more you are means you are in ego, you will remain in hell. As meditation deepens, you become less and less. A moment comes when you are no more. You are in heaven. The day you are not as ego, Nirvana is there. You have arrived home, the ultimate has happened. You have come the full cycle. You have become the child again. What Jesus said, when someone asks, who can enter the kingdom of your Father? One who is childlike. He did not say childish. There is a vast difference between childish and childlike. Childishness is ignorance. And childishness and childlikeness is innocence. There is a vast difference between innocence and ignorance. There is no self anymore. Freedom does not mean freedom from self. Freedom means freedom from self. If freedom is such that self has disappeared, there is only freedom, there is no one free, then who can be there to tremble? Then how can there be anguish? Who will there be to feel condemned? Because there is no one. That is what Lao Tse told this philosopher. You can say whatever you want, but there is no one to answer. But he could not understand. He is seeing a man sitting. Lao Tse was a big bodied. I am seeing a person sitting in front and he says there is no one to answer. What is this foolishness? I do not exist as a man. I do not exist. Lao Tse means that I do not exist as a mind. I do not exist as ego. Someone says, oh, what a stupid person you are. Now, for decades you will not talk to that person. Oh, you called me stupid? Mind has come in. You are living in the image of others. If somebody else says your nose has been taken by the parrot, you're running behind the parrot rather than looking at your nose. It seems you are like a television screen and you have given remote controls to many people. Have you ever imagined a situation when you are sitting in the living room with 4 or 5 people, and each one of them has a remote control in his hand, and all the 5 people are pressing the remote control simultaneously? Will there not be a chaos? This is your situation. You have given remote control to everyone whosoever comes in your company. So each one of them is pressing their remote control. Your screen can, next one presses, something else comes, and then it becomes a chaotic situation. You are in that situation. When Lao Tse says there is no one inside, because as mind he does not exist, and when he does not exist as the mind, he does not exist as ego. Whatsoever you are saying is your opinion about me. To you I may look ugly. To me I look stupid. To me I may not pronounce a word correctly. That is your opinion. It does not matter to me what you say about me. I live. in my emptiness. A person who is empty within means there is no ego, there is no mind coverings. How can he feel condemned? How can he feel anguish? How can he tremble? Then there is no question of choice. Freedom acts as its own choice. One can act of choicelessness because there is no one who can feel any responsibility. Nothingness acts. This is action without action. This is a response between inner nothingness and outer nothingness, and there is nothing obstructing at all. It is because of this non-attainmentness that a bodhisattva, through having relied on the perfection of wisdom, dwells without any thought coverings. We'll continue in tomorrow's session. Until then, take care and do have a pleasant day.